Scotland pulled off what few saw coming. A convincing win that not only boosted morale, but flipped the narrative around Steve Clarke's squad. At Hampden Park, with pressure mounting and expectations modest at best, the Scots delivered a second-half turnaround that had fans celebrating and critics reassessing. And yes, let's take a moment to acknowledge the absolute gift from the Greek goalkeeper. A howler so brutal that it's now firmly planted in the pantheon of Glasgow's worst goalkeeping moments. But credit where it's due, Scotland didn't just luck into this result. They seized it. Now, Stevie may have slept through the first hour of the match, but waking up to a flurry of goals and chaos was the perfect snapshot of what this Scotland team is capable of when they get it right. Even at 1 goal down, they didn't crumble. They hung in there, stayed organized, and got the moment they needed. Christie's equalizer shifted the entire energy of the stadium. From there, Greece collapsed. Totally lost their shape, composure, everything. It was like watching a team unplug itself mid-match. But maybe the most impressive part of the performance wasn't the goals. It was how Clarke handled the game tactically. One commentator even called it a pickpocketing masterclass, and that's spot on. The setup wasn't flashy, but it was shrewd. It played to the moment. Clarke knew his team didn't need to dominate. They just needed to survive long enough for the cracks to show. And when they did, Scotland pounced. And look, we can joke all we want about the Greek keeper. And trust me, he'll be haunted by that replay forever. But this is the kind of night Scotland needed. A statement win. A morale boost heading into the weekend. And for fans who've been through the usual emotional roller coaster of international breaks, it felt good to have one that didn't end in frustration or disappointment. Now, there's a bittersweet note here. Some of our Greek pals behind the scenes, like the guy who shoots the photos for this very channel, are probably still in shock. If he was at Hampden, I imagine he captured some absolutely stunning shots, just maybe not the ones he was hoping for. But that's football. One man's misery is another man's celebration. What really stood out was the resilience. This wasn't a Scotland performance built on flair or relentless attacking. It was about staying in the fight. Greece looked like the favorites on paper, especially with the form Scotland had been showing lately. But when that opening came, Scotland didn't hesitate. The goals came fast. The belief followed even faster. And let's talk about the man of the moment for a sec, Kieran Tierney. Coming off the bench, after a period of criticism and questions around his place, he stepped in and looked like the player we know he can be. Solid down the left, composed, aggressive when it counted. It wasn't flashy, but it was effective. Those small moments, like when he took on a few defenders and kick-started a move, they matter. They rebuild confidence. They show the squad there's depth, there's fight, and there's quality even when big names aren't on the pitch. Then there's young Ramsey, another standout. That crossfield pass in the second half was something else. Sure, he was caught a little off on the Greek goal, but outside of that, it was a strong showing. These are the games where young players can either disappear or stand up. Ramsey stood up, and all of this sets up the Sunday clash perfectly. A win against Belarus now isn't just important, it could define the momentum going into the next break. And with trips to Greece and a huge match against Denmark on the horizon, things could escalate quickly. Flights to the US are getting mentioned, and while that might be a bit premature, it tells you everything about the vibe. For once, there's optimism instead of dread. Meanwhile, in a slightly less joyful corner of Scottish football, the right-hand side of the Celtic lineup continues to be a giant headache. Let's not sugarcoat it. That right flank has been a problem for weeks. Saturday was brutal, and it's not been any better in the recent matches. Alistair Johnston's absence has been massive. His energy, his crossing, even his leadership, it's all been missing. When you look at what he offered last season, 8 assists for goals, there's no one stepping up in his place right now. The hope is he'll be back soon. Brendan Rodgers said Johnston could return to training next week, aiming to be ready for Dundee. But Johnston himself isn't setting a clear timeline. And maybe that's wise. Hamstring injuries are tricky. This was the first muscle tear of his career, and you don't want to rush a player like that. Best case, he gets 30 minutes against Dundee, builds some rhythm, and maybe, just maybe, he's ready to start at Tynecastle. That game against Hearts is massive, but not worth risking a setback. And let's be real, nobody in that position has taken their chance. Ralston's honest, hard-working, but limited. Forrest, once again, had a good showing in the Cup, but at this stage in his career, It feels like a backwards move to rely on him as a starter. And the experiments with Maeda on the right? Not working. Yang, Negrin, even trying out Tenki, nothing sticking. It's frustrating, because the team is being forced to patch together solutions in a part of the pitch that should be locked down. And while there's been talk of maybe trying Tenki on the right, cutting in, freeing up space for Johnston, even that feels like a reach right now. It's not ideal to shift one of your few bright attacking talents into a role he's never truly owned. But that's where the squad is at. There's something ironic in all this. We're talking about system adjustments and positional experiments. Yet the core issue is that one of our best players is missing. Without Johnston, everything on that right side is off balance. And you can see it. No drive, no cutting edge, no overlapping threat. It's painful to watch. And it makes whoever's playing in front of him, whether it's Forrest, Maeda, or Yang, look worse than they probably are. Then we get the reminder that Maeda himself is a doubt now. Tightness in his left foot has ruled him out of Japan's match against Paraguay. Maybe he returns for Brazil on Monday, but it's another layer of uncertainty for Celtic. And it's not just him. Liam Scales has pulled out of Ireland's match against Portugal due to a family bereavement. Hopefully he's back for their next game, but it's more disruption for a squad that can't seem to catch a break with player availability. This is the backdrop as we head into the next phase of the season. International break has provided a breather for some, but for Celtic, the issues are mounting. And when Johnston is your best hope of fixing a dysfunctional flank, it highlights just how critical his return really is. Not just for structure and balance, but for confidence, for drive, for identity. Because when Johnston's in the side, at his best, he's more than just a defender. He's a spark. He opens space, he whips in dangerous balls, and most importantly, he raises the level of those around him. You miss that leadership when it's gone. Not just in what he does, but in how others react when he's there. He sets the tone. While the right-hand side remains a glaring weakness, it's not just the flanks causing headaches. The core structure of Celtic right now feels unbalanced, like a team trying to operate with missing pieces and no real plan to compensate. And the cracks aren't just on the pitch, they're running all the way up the chain of command. The recent meeting between Celtic's board and the fans' collective gave us a rare window into just how far apart both sides are in terms of vision, ambition, and accountability. Now let's not sugarcoat this either. That meeting was a disaster. What should have been a chance for open dialogue turned into a frustrating exercise in dodging responsibility. 7 key questions were brought to the table by the collective, reflecting the concerns of thousands of supporters. What the fans got in return was not answers, but deflection. Cold corporate language. Shrugged shoulders. Excuses. You've got Michael Nicholson, the CEO, sitting in the room, and instead of stepping up and explaining the club's failures, he's batting away questions like it's beneath him to even be asked. When asked why Brendan Rodgers had referred to some signings as club signings, which clearly suggests a disconnect between the manager and the recruitment team, Nicholson apparently just shrugged. No answer. No explanation. Just a gesture that sums up where the relationship is between board and support right now. That's not leadership. That's not transparency. That's a complete failure to respect the people who make the club what it is. Let's talk about communication, because that came up a lot. The board seems to think the main problem is how they deliver their message, not what the actual message is. Like if they'd just used a softer tone in that Saturday night statement, fans wouldn't have been so angry. It's nonsense. Supporters aren't daft. They're not misinterpreting things. They're reacting to years of being ignored, dismissed, and treated like background noise while the people running the club operate in their own little bubble. And that bubble was on full display at this meeting. When asked about the club's long-term football strategy, the best Nicholson could offer was that Celtic aims to be world-class in everything we do. What does that even mean? It's the kind of slogan you print on the back of a brochure, not an actual plan. And when pressed on how that strategy is being implemented, his answer was to point at the annual report and a fans forum that most people don't even know exists. No substance, no vision, no clarity. It gets worse. When asked about the failure to complete transfer business early enough, a recurring issue that left Celtic woefully unprepared for crucial qualifiers, Nicholson tried to spin it. He pointed to the signings of Kwan and Negrin as examples of doing early business. That's 2 players, out of a dozen positions that needed reinforcement. Kwan was a free agent brought in months before the window even opened. Negrin is a promising player, but nowhere near a finished product. The point wasn't that Celtic never signed anyone early. It's that they consistently failed to strengthen the squad in key areas before the biggest matches of the season. And instead of owning that, the club's response is to pat themselves on the back for doing the bare minimum. It's insulting. It's tone-deaf. And it shows just how far removed this board is from the fans' reality. The atmosphere in that meeting was telling. According to those who were there was no humility from the club's side. No sense that they might have got things wrong. Just a defensive wall of rehearsed lines and robotic explanations. Every issue brought up, from transfer failures to ticket pricing to stadium upgrades, was met with excuses or silence. The board doesn't see a problem because from their perspective, they're doing just fine. Profits are good. Season tickets sell out. The machine keeps running. So why would they change? That's the real issue. Celtic have become a club where the business comes first, second, and third. Footballing ambition is somewhere way down the list, behind quarterly earnings and balance sheets. And if the board sees fans complaining, their instinct isn't to listen. It's to bunker down and wait for the noise to pass. But the noise isn't going away. Not this time. The supporters collective isn't made up of angry Twitter accounts or fair-weather fans. It's people who've been following this club through thick and thin, who pay their money, travel the distances, fill the stadium week in, week out. Their concerns are real. Their frustration is justified. And they're not asking for miracles. They're asking for a club that takes responsibility when it falls short. A club that talks to its fans like adults. A club that actually wants to be better, not just look like it. Instead, they're getting brushed off with lines like, "We'll look into it," which has become the Celtic board's go-to phrase for, "We don't care and we won't act." Whether it's the breakdown of transfer targets, internal leaks to the media, or the total lack of accountability for high-level decisions, the board never steps up. They hide behind the vague language of confidentiality and internal processes, hoping it'll all blow over. Meanwhile, the fans are left to pick up the pieces. Watching a team that's unbalanced, underprepared, and uninspired in too many key areas. Knowing that the squad needs serious reinforcements, and that any hope of making an impact in Europe depends on real investment, not more gambles on unproven prospects. And the board's answer to all that? A shrug, a meaningless soundbite, maybe a line about striving to be world-class. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers are turning into shouts around Parkhead this week after reports surfaced that LIEL ABADA, the young Israeli winger, has allegedly branded the Celtic dressing room as toxic and disunited. The claim, though unconfirmed by the club, has already sent shockwaves through the Hoops faithful and the Scottish football scene at large. According to murmurs close to the players' camp, Abada was left frustrated by what he described as cliques within the squad and a lack of real togetherness behind the scenes. The supposed outburst came after recent tensions surrounding team selections and dressing room politics, with several senior players said to have lost patience with management decisions. One insider suggested Abada felt isolated and no longer saw the same spirit that once made Celtic unbeatable. While the club has kept its lips firmly sealed, supporters are already debating the truth behind the claims. On fan forums and in local pubs from Glasgow to Greenock, the mood is one of disbelief mixed with weary recognition. After all, the Hoops form has been shaky of late, and rumors of internal friction have been floating for months. Some suggest Abada's comments might be an emotional reaction, perhaps fueled by frustration over limited game time. Others fear it signals something deeper, a genuine fracture within the heart of the Celtic dressing room. Former players have weighed in too, hinting that the family feeling that once defined the club may be fading under current pressures. If true, Abada's alleged words could mark a pivotal moment in the season, and possibly in the winger's Celtic career. Whether he'll face internal sanctions or seek a move away remains to be seen, but one thing's certain. The green and white calm has been well and truly disturbed. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.